We're hoping that with this next session, we're going to do some quick fire presentations and hopefully bring the energy up a little bit in this room. The session is a very concise look at the importance of driving the best organizational culture with the right people to deliver success. Our presenters will share their experiences looking at aspects of managing their organization's culture during a period of growth. To chair this session, and to introduce our speakers, I'd like to hand over to Executive Director for Innovation at the Scottish National Investment Bank. Put your hands together and welcome Nicola Douglas!
Thank you very much, and thank you to the previous panel. I think we can all agree that was some excellent insights. Hopefully this panel will have the same degree of enthusiasm as some of Zara's introductions have had this morning. So the brief I was given for this panel actually was, it was to be the fun panel. So these quick fire sessions hopefully will bring some excitement and some really great insights into the thoughts of our panel members. So this purpose of this session, and we will welcome the three speakers onto stage in a moment, is to, as I said, go through some quick-fire presentations very much focused on putting culture front and center within their businesses to build organizations that people want to work for. And of course, that helps deliver on the bottom line. And we have some excellent speakers that we're going to bring to the stage today. So Jonathan Burridge, who's the founder and CEO of Utopia, Emma Marriott, the Chief Operating Officer of Connect3, and Ian Valentine, NXD. So before Jonathan takes the podium, I thought I could do a quick introduction for each of our panel members today. So as I said, Jonathan is the founder and CEO of Utopia. So Jonathan has worked in the public sector and also some of the largest global consultancies. So he has been the driving force behind the strategy, sales growth, and relationship management at Utopia. And he has led the business to a 500% revenue growth in the last financial year, which has helped Utopia become one of the most prominent names in the UK prop tech scene. I've been lucky enough to know Jonathan for a good number of years, even before the bank invested, and I've always been very inspired by his determination and passion for growth. Jonathan, please say something.
Thank you. So, hopefully, we're going to see some slides. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here on a great panel with some great people, and here to support the bank today as our primary capital investor. It's a real pleasure to be able to talk about something that I actually find is really incredibly important to me on a personal level, which is the team, the culture, and the people, really, whose lives we touch as a business. So, we received investment from Scottish National Investment Bank in March 2023, at which point we had 18 people. So we were quite a small team, working out of a small office in Hamilton, which is where we founded the business. But with the investment that we brought in from the bank, we were able to scale that team up to 55 people within 9 months. So for us, culture is something that's still building, something that we're constantly trying to hone in on, and it's a really important part of our business. So in terms of the culture we're trying to create, so first and foremost, we have to be a winning culture. For the reasons that were described on the previous panels, businesses like ours really thrive and survive based on growth, and that growth mentality really requires a winning culture. So we've tried to build our business based on that. And it's quite easy to talk about things like mission and vision, but actually we think values and behaviors are really central to how you build culture, especially at an early stage. So what are the things that we can all align to, the values that we have, and then how do we have to behave to reflect that those values are being met on a day-to-day basis. So that was the first thing we decided to do as a leadership team. Was we went off-site for a day, bunch of middle-aged men in suits talking about culture for all these great young people that we've hired. We do have a diversity issue we need to address. But we came up with what we thought the values would be. We actually then consulted with our whole team, and then we were able to document and communicate those values with the wider group of people. So we've kept it pretty simple. I like to do things in threes, which makes my life a lot easier in terms of remembering things. So our vision, values, I should say, are learn fast, together we thrive, and care for people and planet. Now, of course, a business that has impact, caring for people and planet is central to everything we do. But what we really mean is look after each other in the team as well. Learning fast, we heard the word fail fast today a couple of times. We did talk about using that language, but actually it's about learning, taking chances, making things happen, and then addressing anything that you learn from quickly and learning and moving forward. And then together we thrive. It's all about team. The ball gets dropped a lot in scale-up businesses, because we're all moving so quickly. It's making sure that you are there to catch the ball when one of your teammates drops it. That's kind of the central part to our culture there. When we hire people into our team, the first thing I always say to them is be prepared for change because it's inevitable, it's coming. As we've evolved, even just over the last 2 years, we've had to restructure teams, change lines of reporting, change scope of roles, and our leadership team has been able to adapt really well to that, as have the teams that sit within our whole organization. So that's the first thing. And the reason for that is the strategy evolves. Every single month, it feels like, sometimes week, we learn something new about the business, and therefore we have to be able to adapt to that and make change. So it's really important for us that as the strategy is evolving, we're able to adapt our teams, our structure, and our ways of working. And then it's all about course correction. So I think most people who I've had the privilege of being involved in Scale Up Scotland last year. Some of the cohort are in the room today. Hi. And hearing from founders and entrepreneurs that have been on the journey, everybody's growth path is different, but ultimately it's about correcting the course as you are growing. And again, with that course correction and constant iteration, that creates uncertainty, and it creates a culture where you really need your people to understand that change is coming and be prepared and comfortable in working in that environment. If I look at what we're going to do next, so it's, like I said, it's a journey that we're on. First thing is we need to invest in and develop our people. So we've been really privileged to not only find an amazing group of people that are prepared to join us on our mission, but they're really super supportive in terms of long-term growth for themselves and for the business, and they want to be with us long-term. So we think we have to invest back, and we want to invest back in those people and our key team members to help them build great careers and have great lives ahead of them, either inside or outside of Utopia. We're building our team for growth, so we always feel like we're maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead. Quite a difficult thing to do. We find ourselves a little bit top-heavy, especially in those early stages. But actually, it's really important that before you start to really pull through scale, that you have the right people at the table, the right roles filled, and then you can resource into those roles in a much more strategic way. And frankly, you can only really do that with great investment behind you. And that's one of the benefits of bringing in external funding early, as we have. And then the third thing is be ready to adapt. So like I said a couple of times today, you don't really know what's going to happen from one week to the next in a growth-minded organization. So for us, it's all about being poised and ready to change, make decisions, learn fast, be brave, be bold, and hopefully be really successful on that journey. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jonathan. That was excellent. I think we'll avoid any discussions about middle-aged men in suits setting culture. I did have a question around what you wear to work, how that might set culture, but decided it's a bit too of a political point this week. So next, do a bit of an introduction to Emma. So Emma's had extensive experience in leadership spanning 25 years in recruitment and people consultancy. She led as managing director of Contract Scotland, scaling from 1 to 21 million. I think that beats your 500% revenue growth, Jonathan. Emma's career has been focused on scaling businesses with a clear value proposition, which we will hear about a little bit more. Emma's now the Chief Operating Officer at Connect3, and delighted to welcome her to the stage to give us some more insight.
forgive me, like Myrtle, I also have notes today, so I'll do my best. I was also told to bring fun about 20 minutes ago, so I'll try really hard on that as well. So I started my career in a founder-led construction business as a temporary recruitment consultant, and I was really bad at it. I thought my job was to find the perfect hire to fit their business, but clients didn't need any kind of superstar. They needed a site engineer for 3 weeks, sick cover. Lesson learned, no need for cultural fit. But often when I did place someone, they got hired permanently. And that got me thinking not just about recruitment, but about how businesses grow. The right people at the right time make all the difference. Now, the commerciality of that and the poor pipelining is thankfully not up for discussion today. But when I did move into permanent recruitment after a couple of years, let me tell you, I was at the top of my game. I quickly became a shareholder and director, and I realised something quite powerful. It was really that most clients didn't truly what they needed for their business. They had a job description, but no real understanding of the kind of person they wanted or the kind of leader that might join their business. And there was a lot of discussion about cultural fit. So my role became less about filling jobs and more about helping people define their hiring strategy, asking the questions they often didn't think to ask about their own business. And that was about where their business is going, what's really important to them as people and their teams, what behaviours did they need to take their business forward, what didn't they do very well, could they be honest and say, we've got some gaps, we're not great at raising investment, or we're not great at treating people well. We also talked massively about their culture. Sometimes in PLCs we recruited for couldn't articulate that, but the founder-led businesses could tell you about culture quickly, and that was the business that we had. We had a lot of discussion about the will versus skill conversation. Did they need the people who were really skilled, really technical, or did they need the right mindset and the will to be upskilled? I worked hard to find the people who didn't just have the right skills, but the right outlook and matched those motivations. If a company was really task-driven, I didn't find them someone who needed a coaching culture. If they were moving fast and needed agility, I found people who thrived in that environment. And it wasn't about selling a dream. It was about being honest about who they were, what they valued, and keeping people aligned to that strategy and culture. Fast forward to my own role then as managing director, post-2008, horrific collapse of our turnover dropping by 25%, which felt like overnight. And the culture and growth plans for our business became even more critical. And then if we didn't have the right people in our business, well, why would clients trust us to find the right people for them? In recruitment, people assumed that we'd be really sales-driven, commission-based, individualistic, or egotistical, shall I say. But that wasn't about who we were at all. Our values were of integrity, partnership, and doing the right thing for our clients and our candidates seeking work. And we had to be really clear about that, both to our team and the people that we wanted to hire. So we had our reward mechanism based around that. We rewarded collaboration, not just individual wins. We bonused team players, not the commission hunters. And we valued innovation, not always doing the same thing, following the same path, but seeing the opportunities to grow. We had a learning and development culture, and we knew that if we lifted each other up, commercial success would follow, and it did. We had 10% growth year on year, our engagement scores stayed above 90%, and churn in our company remained under 10% for 6 years. But that only worked because we were really clear about what we valued and the behaviours we expected and what we rewarded. The cultural ramifications of weak onboarding into companies, poor hiring decisions, and failing to get the right people in high growth firms can be really severe. Without strong onboarding, employees often feel really lost, undervalued, and disconnected from your company's mission. So do the pre-work, do the hiring strategy, take your time to find the right person. doing the pre-work at this stage is what will help you achieve your growth, because when you do find that right person, you'll be able to move fast to secure them. And apply this at all levels, not just for your leadership, but for every person that walks into your organisation. Because the loss of culture when you get the wrong fit, it can be so hard to come back from. So the solution, be really intentional. Know what you value, define the behaviours that matter, make hiring decisions based on those values at all levels, and invest in the right leadership team to take you to the next stage. At Connect 3, we work with businesses exactly on this. When I joined them last summer, it was to help a brilliant founder lead a business down a growth journey. We often help leaders understand their people, their challenges, how their culture fits into their strategy, because leadership isn't just about making decisions, it's about making the right decisions at the right time. And it's often really it can often be very difficult when to know what to do for your people. So get a framework. Evaluate and understand who your superstars are, and know who your solid players are, the ones that keep the company going, and motivate those people accordingly. And when those people fit into that bottom intervention quadrant, act really swiftly but fairly. If these people are stopping the bus from moving and others can see that, they'll question the leadership. So keep painting the picture of where your organisation is going, so your people know how they can contribute to the day-to-day and the big picture tasks, and check in through a variety of points. In a growth business, it's so easy to get wrapped up in your brilliant journey, achieve sales targets, but keep checking in on the people. That's important to cultivate a culture of shared purpose, and for people to understand that there's meaning in your organisation. And finally, when you're leading a fast growth business, it's easy to forget. It's easy to focus on what's next and forget about who's next. So who's coming with you? Who's leading alongside you? And where is it time for you or others to step off the bus? Don't wait until you're burned out. Build your succession plan now. Identify the right talent, shape your future leaders, and be bold enough to know when it's time to change. Because the best leaders don't just scale businesses, they scale culture too. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. There's definitely some important bits in there that we'll come back to in the questions. So next is Ian, who is the creative one of the group, and I think every group needs that. Ian is the former CEO and MD of acclaimed digital creative and brand agencies, running these both independently and as part of large global networks. He spent 17 years as the co-owner and managing partner of Edinburgh-based company Whitespace. He has exceptional skills, knowledge, and track record in growth and in exits. Ian now spends most of his time coaching and supporting the next generation of highly innovative and transformational businesses through a range of board positions. We do have higher expectations of your slides, given your digital background, Ian, but I'd love to welcome you to the stage.
Great, thank you. Great to be here. I'm not going to claim to bring the fun either, but I did bring a prop. So this is the rule book, actually your rule book, which was our kind of company handbook at Whitespace. This is my only copy. So I will let you look at this, but I will not let you touch it, okay? So yeah, here they are. That's the fantastic Whitespacers. I truly believe that the people and the culture that we built at Whitespace was the single biggest factor in our growth and success. I joined Whitespace in 2004. There was 10 people. We were doing less than $1 million in revenue. Over the next 5 years, we won Scottish Design Agency of the Year. We grew the business to 30 people, and 3 of us did an MBO and bought out the original founders. Over the 10 years that followed that, we then grew the business to nearly 90 people. I think the largest independent creative digital business in Scotland. We won Scottish Design Agency of the Year 2 more times. We won Employer Brand of the Year, which was super important for us. And we handled amazing work for the Scottish Government, Tennant, Citizen Gun, Highland Spring, you name it. Probably some other people in the room that are here today as well. I think that realistically, and this is going to seem pretty simple, but it was a very clear kind of vision that we had. Not just to be the best, not just in Scotland, but to do work across the UK and internationally. I truly believe that we have fantastic creative talent in Scotland, and we leverage that, absolutely. In 2018, we became part of Dentsu, which is the 5th largest advertising network in the world. And I exited in 2022 following an earnout. The team in Edinburgh, who are now called Dentsu Creative, are now working with brands across the globe, Coca-Cola, Nike, Shiseido, various different clients. So in some ways, you could say we actually did achieve that vision. But it's not just about the vision. It has to have clear aims. I think we've chatted about that in the panel already. And I think you need to know kind of what you're aiming for. And I realized pretty early on that my key role and the key role for the leadership team was actually to create the best place to work and hire the best people. That was the main thing that people said to us was the most important thing they wanted to do. Who was sitting next to them? What were the work they were actually completing? So I think there are kind of key things in that. Yes, we did measure it. They're all there. I'm not going to go through them all because I need to keep up on time. But this is what we kind of measured as our kind of dashboard. The key things being if you have a happy team, I think, and if you have happy clients, then actually the rest of it takes care of itself. So I think this is another screen grab from the aforementioned company handbook, but it's just a little bit of a story around the fact that when we were sort of 10 people, we kind of feared the fact, we said, well, we don't want to get to 20, because no more than 20, because if we get to 20, the culture will change and we're not going to do, and it will not be great. So then we got to 20 and we said, well, no more than 30. And we got to 30 and we have no more than 40. And then we kind of went, well, actually, do you know what? If we're still doing great work, if we have happy clients and the team are importantly really happy, then actually why do we keep limiting ourselves to the size that we can actually grow? So, and to that point, I think that culture is, as we know, a kind of living, breathing thing. It is a kind of constantly evolving and changing. It's every decision that you make as a leader, every action that you take, every person that you on board, every client that you onboard, and importantly, clients that you decline, that all kind of nudges your culture in a different kind of direction. So I don't know if you can absolutely drive it, but you can create the right environment to make it thrive. I love this slide from the book, ain't no party like a white space party. You know, a wise man once said, live for today, plan for tomorrow, party tonight. It's nice having it all written down in the book, but you actually have to live it, and I think that's a key kind of point. So, in summary, driving the right culture to deliver success. I do believe those vision and aims that people can really believe and get behind are super important. Great people needs to be on the board agenda. A lot of businesses that I talk to, we get around the table, they want to talk about the numbers, but they don't want to talk about the people, and I think that's a mistake. So great people needs to be right up there on the board agenda. And the culture, live it, don't just kind of list it. So I know I've got a book here. You're all very welcome at the end to come up and grab me, and I'll show you it. Thanks. Oh.
Thanks very much, Ian. And I think everybody wants to work for white space now, given the strap line is ain't no party like a white space party. Exactly. So thank you very much. I'm just going to move into a couple of questions on some of the content that we've seen of the presentations there. And then please use Slido if there's anything in particular, and I will come out to the audience as well. So Jonathan, just coming back to you, so something that you spoke about in your presentation in terms of constantly going through the process of reviewing your teams and your structures and having to be quite agile with that as you're going through the process of scale. How have you managed to do that as a business and stop people focusing on the past and making sure that they're gauging on the future growth of the business?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I don't think we've got a perfect answer to that. I think in reality, it's pretty organic. So, you know, the first thing, as I mentioned, I always say to people as they join in Utopia, whether I'm hiring them or it's another hiring manager, is be ready for change, so that you can set the mindset so that people are prepared and expecting the inevitable, which is that things will adjust and move as we course correct. So I think it's quite difficult to explain exactly how we do that on a case-by-case basis. But I guess having great people around you who are bought into the journey that we're on and are really keen to develop their own careers and themselves, they absolutely love change and they embrace that. And I think that's probably one of the things that we've really benefited from.
Thank you. And I'm going to supplement that by a great question from Slido. I'm not sure where it's come from, but can culture be imposed from the top down, or does it have to be built from the bottom up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the first thing we did before we sat in a boardroom together and decided what these values were going to be is we consulted with the team. So we made sure that they had a voice, and that when we played back our values and behavior expectations, we were able to signpost that feedback and the decision making around the structure had really been through that feedback process that we'd put in place. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter how hard or how much we say this is how we want the culture to look. Day to day, the culture it's the masses. It's not the 3 or 4 people at the top of the table. So we rely on having hired the right people, and I think that in itself has helped us, build that bottom-up culture. Good energy, vibrant people, really wanting to be in this thing together. So, but yeah, it's a really good point. Good question.
Thanks, Jonathan. And just pulling on your point there about hiring the right people, and maybe coming to yourself, Emma, is you talked about making sure you're getting the right people on the bus. And that's not always easy through the interview process. So you're looking at quite often technical skills and ability, and it's always quite difficult to judge team fit and cultural fit. Have you got any experience of bringing people into the business that quite quickly it appeared that they were not on the right bus, and how you dealt with that?
Obviously, as a recruiter, I would like to say I've never had any terrible fit, but yes, I was talking with my colleague earlier about some experience I'd had both at Contract Scotland and then in the last few years working consultancy, where you have laid out exactly what you're looking for. You're maybe working with organisations who have identified exactly the kind of skills criteria they're looking for, where this company is at their stage in growth, and then very quickly seeing that they don't have maybe the skills, but more so the attitude to work with the organisation effectively. And that can be really sad, because I'm very much an optimist. I like to see that everybody's got potential and it can be realised in an organisation, but it is about that match. It's got to be the right energy, right, aligned to the motivations at the time. But certainly it goes back to what I'd said earlier. It's about moving quickly on that and not letting it fester, because when other people start to see that somebody's not aligned, or it begins to suck the life out of the room and drags your culture down. So we often had conversations, and one person in particular, about the type of behaviour we're looking for, the kind of communication that we're looking for. And you could see they were used to working in a much bigger environment with more people around them, and we were working in a small organisation where you have to wear a number of hats. But it's having that conversation quickly, demonstrating the values of the organisation, the behaviour we need, and having a dignified exit. Not always pretty, but needs to be done.
Thank you. And just following that up, so we've seen the world of work and recruitment change quite significantly post-COVID, and just following up on a question again from the audience around working flexibly and hybrid working. Do you think that corporate culture is compatible with those types of models, and what are the ways in which businesses can make sure that they maintain a corporate culture with more of a dispersed workforce?
Again, really interesting. We're working with some excellent organisations who are doing that on a worldwide platform at the moment. But the key for that is finding opportunities to link in, and a lot of that has been done around their learning development. It's been pulling people into sometimes perfectly curated scenarios where they can check in. It's having off-sites. It's bringing people together, whether it be about product development or about changing their strategic direction. But it's not just relying on, you'll catch them at the water cooler moment. It has to be curated. It has to be done really significantly. So yes, it can happen. We're beginning to see huge organisations obviously bring people back into the office. I personally don't think that's a terrible thing, but it doesn't suit everybody. And again, it's about those organisations being really clear about what they need and why they're bringing people back together. Is it about connectivity and to upskill the younger generation? Or I hope it isn't about presenteeism. I hope that is a thing of the past.
Thanks, Emma. Ian, I'm glad you took a prop because it definitely helps support my first question around having a culture, kind of policy or strategy or values within a business. How do you make sure that that's not just a piece of work or a handbook that gets put in a drawer? What are the things that a business can do to really bring those cultural things to life?
I think some of them have already been suggested already. I do think you have to lead it. I think importantly, leadership needs to be present and part of it and there. But I mean, you said it when I came off the stage, you want to work for Whitespace. That is intentionally what we
like parties.
set out to do. Yeah, it is intentionally what we set out to do. And, fantastic summer party where we reenacted like the Olympic Games, Christmas parties where we went away and broke Anne Boleyn's bed. That's another story. Various different things, but that social aspect and meaningful reasons for people to get together and engage with each other was just so important.
And this is a great question for you, which comes from somebody in the audience as well, which is around, and given that you work with some of the biggest global companies in the world, what are some of the organizations that you think are displaying some of the best kind of positive cultures globally, and how do you think that they've achieved those?
I mean, obviously, I experienced this a little bit. Obviously, we were acquired by a much, much larger business, and actually, the culture was one of the reasons that we were also liked. They wanted to replicate that throughout their creative teams in the UK. But I think it's harder to do when you're bringing together, those different types of businesses with different cultures. I don't know if there's anybody that I'd pinpoint and go are doing an amazing job. Obviously, I could plug Muckle PR, who I'm chair for, who are currently, just one employer brand on Thursday night, which is amazing. But yeah, I don't know if there's anybody I'd point to and go, they are a shining example.
And I think you can make assumptions around culture with branding, and that's where it's, I'm guessing, some pretty good branding. I had a conversation with a colleague recently about how Dorset Cereals felt like a great culture, but that's more to do with their branding, I'm guessing, than anything else. True. So just thinking about, and this is maybe a question for you, Emma, and again from somebody anonymous in the audience, around cultures often driven by creating diversity within the workplace. How important do you think culture is with recruiting from a diverse pool of people?
Oh, I mean, for sure. Another role I have is working with the Judicial Appointments Board Scotland, and they are perhaps not known for being the most diverse group of people, and we're doing a huge input for that, is trying to showcase a career in the judiciary to the furthest and most large group of people that we can possibly exist within law. And I think that's not been done before, and again, a number of organisations sometimes they can recruit people easily. They've got a great value proposition, and people will want to naturally work for those. The companies that work harder begin to showcase their career, showcase everything who they are. They value and want diversity of thought. It's not about protected characteristics, but it's more about mindset and bringing all those people together and having those and harnessing that I suppose that melting pot. It's your role as a leader to bring those people together, to get the best out of those individuals and bring them together to accelerate your growth. But yeah, I think it should still be our number one priority for organisations.
Absolutely. I'm going to go to one more question on slide and then open up to the floor, because I think this is a particularly good one. And Jonathan, I might direct this one toward you. Have you ever refused to work with somebody or partner with an organisation or a supply chain because they didn't align with the values of your organisation?
That's a good question. Really good question. The short answer is no. However, we would be very open to rejecting any partner or supplier that didn't reflect our values. I think that you can't talk the talk if you don't walk the walk. So if you truly believe in your values, and I think that's at the heart of this kind of discussion point, then picking people that you want to work with and can work with and create open and transparent relationships with is essential. I mean, we partner already with a number of organizations on the supply chain, on go-to-market teams. and transparency and integrity are at the heart of those relationships. So yeah, we haven't thankfully met anybody that we would reject out of hand. However, I would be quite comfortable doing that.
Please come in.
We absolutely have. Yeah, well, several occasions. Actually, on the way back from meeting a client with the team, I said as soon as we get back to the office, we're declining to pitch for this bit of work. Because I think actually, going back to the point, the decisions that you make about the clients that you work with and the way they treat you in situations is how they're going to treat your team when you're no longer there. And actually, that's hugely important in that work environment. So yeah, I think declining work often more important than what you win.
I think
One day
that's-
maybe I'll get there. I can't afford to decline work yet.
True.
I think that's a very good point, Ian. So before we start to wrap up, is there any burning questions from the audience for any of the panel members? No? Okay. Well, I am sitting between you and lunch, so thank you very much to the panel members. I'm going to welcome Zara back onto the stage just to say a couple of more things before we break up, but thank you again, and thank you to the audience for all the fantastic questions.